This is the story of the FBI agents secretly working for the cartel. The city of El Paso glowed beneath a blanket of rain. Lightning flashed across the dark sky while hundreds of vehicles crawled through wet streets. Inside FBI headquarters, Special Agent Daniel Mercer sat in a conference room surrounded by maps, photographs, and intelligence reports. The room was filled with senior agents. Everyone was focused on one thing: the Mendoza Cartel, one of the most powerful criminal organizations operating across the border. The cartel controlled drug routes, money laundering networks, weapons trafficking operations, and hundreds of loyal soldiers. For years, federal agencies had tried to destroy them. For years they had failed. Daniel stood before a large screen. His presentation was flawless. Every statistic, every target, every prediction. Perfect. His supervisor smiled. "Excellent work, Mercer. You're the reason we're finally making progress." Several agents nodded. Daniel thanked them. But inside he almost laughed. Because the reason the cartel had survived for so long was standing right in front of them. It was him. The trusted FBI hero. The decorated investigator. The rising star. The man secretly feeding information directly to the cartel. No one suspected a thing. Not even his closest friends. Not even the woman he had been dating for nearly 2 years. Daniel had become an expert liar. He lied every day. He lied so often that sometimes even he forgot which version of reality was true. Then his phone vibrated. A private encrypted message. Only one person used that channel. The cartel boss. The message contained just 3 words. "Meeting tonight. Alone." Daniel's stomach tightened. When cartel bosses requested meetings, it was never a good sign. 3 hours later, Daniel crossed the border under a false identity. He drove through winding mountain roads until he reached an isolated estate hidden among cliffs and forests. The property looked more like a fortress than a home. Armed guards patrolled every entrance. Surveillance cameras covered every angle. Attack dogs roamed the perimeter. Nobody entered without permission. Nobody left without approval. This was the private compound of Carlos Mendoza, the most feared cartel leader in North America. Carlos wasn't known for violence. That was what made him dangerous. He preferred strategy, patience, manipulation. He treated crime like a business. And unlike most criminals, he rarely made mistakes. Daniel entered the mansion. Carlos sat beside a massive fireplace. The older man's face remained expressionless. He motioned for Daniel to sit. For several moments neither spoke. Then Carlos finally broke the silence. "We have a problem." Daniel immediately knew this wasn't good. Carlos never used the word problem lightly. "What happened?" Daniel asked. Carlos slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs, surveillance images, FBI reports, financial records. Daniel's pulse accelerated. Someone was investigating internal corruption inside the FBI. Someone had discovered evidence. Not enough evidence, but enough to become dangerous. Carlos looked directly into Daniel's eyes. "Someone is getting closer." Daniel remained calm. "How close?" Carlos answered. "Closer than I would like." 10 years earlier, Daniel Mercer had been completely different. Fresh from Quantico. Idealistic. Motivated. Honest. He genuinely believed he could make a difference. He believed good people always won. He believed criminals always lost. Reality taught him otherwise. His first major investigation involved tracking a human trafficking network. The operation took nearly 2 years. Daniel sacrificed everything. Relationships, sleep, family time. His entire life became dedicated to the case. Finally, they gathered enough evidence. The arrests were scheduled. The victims would be rescued. The criminals would face justice. Or so he thought. The night before the operation, the entire case collapsed. Every target vanished. Every witness disappeared. Every piece of evidence somehow became inadmissible. The traffickers escaped. Months later, Daniel learned why. Someone higher up had accepted bribes. Powerful people had protected the criminals. The system had failed. For the first time, Daniel began questioning everything. The anger stayed with him. Growing. Festering. Waiting. Then came the day he met Carlos Mendoza. And his life changed forever. The meeting took place in a luxury restaurant overlooking the ocean. Daniel expected threats. Intimidation. Violence. Instead, Carlos treated him like an honored guest. They talked for nearly 2 hours. About politics. Business. Corruption. Power. Carlos never mentioned crime. Not once. Then he asked a question. Do you know why good men become corrupt? Daniel remained silent. Carlos smiled. Because eventually they realized the rules only applied to them. The words lingered. Carlos continued. You spent 2 years building a case. Powerful people destroyed it in a single night. Daniel's expression darkened. Carlos noticed. You believed the system was different. For the first time, Daniel felt uncomfortable. Because Carlos was right. The man understood exactly how disappointed he had become. Then Carlos made his offer. Not money. Not threats. Information. Power. Influence. A chance to never be powerless again. Daniel refused. Immediately. Carlos simply smiled. Everyone refuses the first time. 6 months later, tragedy struck. Daniel's father suffered a massive stroke. Medical bills exploded. Insurance covered almost nothing. His family faced financial ruin. Daniel worked overtime. Borrowed money. Sold possessions. Nothing was enough. The debt continued growing. Then an envelope arrived. Inside was a cashier's check. $500,000. No note. No instructions. No explanation. Daniel immediately knew who had sent it. Carlos Mendoza. Daniel stared at the check for hours. Days. Weeks. He never cashed it. Until the hospital informed him his father's treatment would end without payment. That night changed everything. The moment he deposited the money, he crossed a line he could never uncross. The first request seemed harmless. A shipment inspection schedule. Nothing more. No names. No operations. No agents. Just a schedule. Daniel provided it. The shipment disappeared before authorities arrived. Weeks later, another request came. Then another. Then another. Each request slightly bigger. Slightly riskier. Gradually, Daniel became indispensable. The cartel trusted him. The FBI trusted him. Both sides viewed him as an ally. Neither side knew the full truth. Daniel carefully balanced both worlds. When the FBI needed arrests, he sacrificed low-level cartel members. When the cartel needed protection, he redirected investigations. The arrangement worked perfectly. For years. Then someone arrived who couldn't be manipulated. Someone who refused to follow expectations. Someone who would threaten everything. Special Agent Sarah Bennett. Sarah Bennett transferred from Washington after exposing corruption in another federal agency. Her reputation was legendary. She had uncovered judges, politicians, business executives, even federal officers. Nothing escaped her attention. Within her first week, she noticed strange patterns. Raids failed too often. Evidence disappeared too frequently. Cartel leaders escaped too conveniently. Everyone else blamed coincidence. Sarah didn't believe in coincidence. She believed in mathematics. And statistically speaking, the odds of so many failures occurring naturally were nearly impossible. Someone was helping the cartel. Someone inside the FBI. She quietly began investigating. The moment Daniel learned this, a chill ran through him. Because Sarah wasn't merely intelligent. She was relentless. And relentless people were dangerous. Very dangerous. For years, the FBI's greatest source had been an informant known only as Ghost. Nobody knew who Ghost was. Nobody had ever met Ghost. The information always came through Daniel. The intelligence was incredibly accurate. Sometimes. Other times it was misleading. Nobody questioned it. Ghost had become legendary. Agents spoke about him with admiration. Supervisors praised him constantly. Entire operations depended upon him. The truth was far darker. Ghost never existed. Daniel had invented him. Every report, every message, every warning, every piece of intelligence, all fabricated. Ghost was the perfect shield. Whenever information leaked, suspicion never fell on Daniel. People blamed Ghost. Ghost became the invisible person responsible for everything. It was one of the most brilliant deceptions in FBI history. And it was about to collapse. Because Sarah had started investigating Ghost. And she was asking questions nobody had ever asked before. Questions Daniel couldn't answer. Questions that would eventually expose him. Unless he stopped her first. One rainy evening, Daniel received another encrypted message. This one froze him. The message contained a photograph. Sarah Bennett leaving headquarters. Underneath was a single sentence. She knows too much. Moments later another message arrived. Remove the threat. Daniel stared at the screen. His hands trembled. This wasn't information. This wasn't corruption. This wasn't money. This was murder. And suddenly Daniel realized something terrifying. The cartel no longer saw him as a partner. They saw him as an employee. A tool. A disposable asset. If he refused, someone else would eliminate Sarah. If he complied, he would become a killer. For the first time in 10 years, Daniel found himself trapped. No good options. No easy escape. No way out. Only consequences. And every choice led toward disaster. Little did he know. A far greater danger was already moving against him. Because while Sarah was investigating the cartel, someone else was investigating Daniel. Someone far more dangerous. Someone inside the FBI itself. Someone who already suspected the truth. And who had just obtained evidence capable of destroying everyone. The FBI. The cartel. And Daniel Mercer. Forever. To be continued. If you enjoyed this story, comment below where you're watching from and tell us your theory. Who is secretly investigating Daniel? Will Sarah discover the truth? Will Daniel betray the cartel or the FBI? And who survives when both sides finally learn the truth? Comment your predictions below. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling crime stories, cartel sagas, mafia tales, and suspense-filled adventures.